Dave here. How are you? Today is the 16th of January 2022. I've changed a couple of things around a little bit today. I've moved this monitor that I'm watching right in front of me across, and I put the camera over the screen that it's actually going out to you. Before I was looking kind of over there. Now I have another monitor over here which I can keep an eye on what's happening as we're doing things. So today on the show we will be having a look at Toolpaths in Aspire, and we will go out to the CNC after I've gone through these Toolpaths and actually run it. And I better do the socials. Give me a second. Where are we? There, we'll post that one, and I'll post these other ones. Sorry, I should have done these a couple of seconds ago, but not to worry. They're done now. You'll probably be getting things on Facebook and Instagram if you follow me there. Sorted. Morning Nathan, morning Peter, Michael, Ash from Monday Meetup, Paul and Carl, Joseph, John, Matt, Derek, everyone who's possibly a little bit interested in CNC work. Now, you'll notice the trailer that I had at the beginning of the show was showing that CNC is not everyone's cup of tea, and 3D printing and laser etching, cutting, what have you. The hard fact of it all is they're here to stay, and probably even going to be much more dynamic further down the track than we even can think about at the moment. So we can either embrace it and move forward with life in general and enjoy it, or we can just shut it off. Now, if you're someone who wants to just shut it off, that's fine, but you may find part of this interesting because I've developed this camera hanger a little bit further than we did last week. Now, also on the show today, I'll be showing a couple of viewers' projects, and if you have a project, please send them in. And also, we'll be looking at the bathroom door that I did and put that vent in. Remember, 2 shows ago, we put the vent in here, and I've got some images to show you after the show of more work that I did on it, and then in situ. And you probably would have seen that, the picture of it in the hallway in the trailer at the beginning. All right, now, right off the bat, we're going to have a look at Aspire. Now, Aspire and Vcarve are both programs for manipulating vectors, creating vectors, and creating toolpaths to go around vectors or creating 3D work. Now, Aspire is the program that I have got. Now, Vectric gave that to me because I am labeled an influencer. Now, if I was to buy it, I would have just bought Vcarve. You don't need Aspire if you're not going to do 3D and rotary axis work. Vcarve will get you out of trouble, and it's a bloody good program. So that's the one that I would buy. Now, let's have a look at Aspire here. I'm going to see if I can find the camera that I've got it all on. Aspire, okay, so it's going to throw up another screen right at the moment, and then I'm going to minimize, or actually I'm going to open up Aspire down here, and this should all be working now. So you'll see me in the bottom corner down here, and we've got Vectric up there. Now, I'm going to run it all from over here, so I'm going to be looking off to the side. I can't actually run it on the monitor that I'm monitoring the show with because it's just not going to respond. All right, that was a bit of an interesting one for me. Okay, now it's called a dust pipe clamp. We'll click on that, and you can see, I'll zoom in on it a bit. It is a bit disturbing having the 3 screens up. All right, so you can see I have something there that's going to have some slots in it, and there's some parts down here. Oh, it's great that you can see the mouse running as well. Some spots down here. These are going to be kind of, I'll show you exactly what I'm going to be putting in those. These are called Propeller Nuts. So these little guys here are Propeller Nuts, and they've got a thread down the inside. This is a 1/4 inch, and this one is a 5/16. Now I'm going to make these little pieces of plywood square with a hole down through the middle and a washer kind of relief, I should say, in the top to take that diameter. And they may go on to the end of this arm that's going to be hanging off the dust pipe to screw a ball head into, they may not. Let's have a look further down. Again, this is still a work in progress, but I'm enhancing it as much as I can. Now, down here, this area is basically half of the clamp. Instead of just hanging over and relying on the weight to grab it, I'm now using a pincer style. So I decided to create an area. This one is the long one. This is the one that's the actual lever. And this area here is a rebate, or a kind of a dadoed area that I've lowered. This is plywood that's 18 millimeters thick. So this section I've gone down 9 millimeters. So it's kind of half and half. But it'll be more interesting when I show you this. I'm going to open up the Toolpaths and leave them pinned open. And then I'll go to 3D preview and I'll show you what it looks like when I preview all of the Toolpaths that I've already got set up. Let me see. Close that and go to Preview Toolpaths. I'm going to run it. So I'll preview all Toolpaths and you'll see what's going to happen. Now I can zoom in on that and then start to roll it around a little bit. And you can see where I've cut all the way through. So this will be one part. And let's move it around a little bit this way. This is the main piece all the way down to here. This other piece will be flipped over 180 degrees and placed over the top of this. So that hole there is for this hole here, and that's where the hinge point will be. And these are slots that are designed for a 5/16 or 8 millimeter bolt to go through to lock this arm onto this arm. So it's pretty basic really when you look at it this way. Now, I'll go back to the two-dimensional one and we'll look at this. Now I'm going to open this toolpath up. So we have starting depth is 0. So it's going to start cutting on the top of the board, and we'll tell the CNC where the top of this board is. I'll go through that soon. And we're going to go down, as I said, 9 millimeters. Now this is the cutter that I'm using, but it's actually a compression cutter. It's a 1/4 inch compression cutter. And I'm going to have a look at the passes. So I've said 2 passes, and the first pass I've told it to go 5 millimeters. The second pass will be 4, so 5 millimeters, then, sorry, 4 millimeters more will make it 9. Now ordinarily, it says I'm going to halve it for you. I'm going to give you 4.5 and 4.5, so it evens out. I've overridden that on purpose because the compression cutter, I'll grab one, because I think it's important for you to have a quick look. This is a slightly bigger compression cutter, and I'll come back to the main camera for this. There. This is a 3/8 compression cutter. Now you notice that the bottom is cutting one direction. It's a spiral up, and the rest of it is a spiral down cut. Now, I found with the 1/4 inch, if I do my first pass at 5 millimeters, I get this upcut from the bottom, which gives me a nice clean base, but I don't get any tear out around the edge of the cut on the top of the cut, because at that stage, I've got the spiral down section of the cutter turning and forcing the fibers back down into the cut. So it gives me a really clean top. All right, let's go back to there, and that will possibly make a little bit more sense now. So I can say, okay, number of passes is 2. I can change that around if I wanted to, but I'm going to leave it there. And then I'm in climb cut, not conventional. So climb cut is basically the router going the different direction that you would consider. You would normally think I'm going to go one direction so that the cutter is going into it, not coming the other direction where the cutter is actually wanting to get a runoff. Yeah, it'd be like, I was just going to try and do a similarity to a belt sander. If the belt was turning the other direction and running towards you, you know, it'd be a bit dangerous rather than having the belt turning away from you and the machine wanting to pull away from you, which is safer. So it's the same kind of thing with a router, but different. Okay, so that's a little bit of mucking around with there. Let me see, I could have had it conventional and see this little thing here, it would go the other direction. So I can do that, and it's saying it's going to go around that way. But I'm going to say climb. And that's all good there. We'll leave it alone. I could click on calculate, and it would, well, I will click on calculate. Let's do it. And go back to 2D. And you can see here, that's where it's going to cut. Now it's going to do the same amount of cutting in the other part. Remember, I've said these are going to be 9mm each. They're going to lock over each other and give me a full 18 in certain areas along the board. All right, so I could preview that one selection, and I can slow it down a little bit by clicking on this little guy up here and say preview it, and we'll watch it happen. It's doing it on the top one first. Now it's going to come down to the bottom one here. Oh. Look, it was in 3D. Let's go back to 3D and we'll do it again. So we shall reset the preview and we'll rotate it around a little bit and make it a bit bigger, and we'll wait for it to happen down here. Yeah, you're probably jumping up and down saying you're boffing, you don't know what you're doing. Well, it's a bit of fun. Let's preview that selection again. See it down there? And when it's finished, it's going to show it as yellow. So that's the two parts. And then we can preview the holes. And I did say that I was going to go through the order of process. Now, the reason I've done the pocket first is because I wanted to get it down before I actually cut the shape out. If I cut the shape out, I'm relying on the tabs to hold it all steady. At the moment, I've got a big solid board there, so I would rather cut out the shapes that aren't going all the way through first, apart from holes. Holes are okay, but cutting the whole thing out, not the holes, the whole thing, the entire project, cutting the entire project out is an area where we still need to be careful. All right, so we'll preview the holes. And you know, yeah, so that's the second thing that I'm going to do. So there's the holes. You can't really see them all that far, but they do go through. Let me roll it over a little bit. So you can see just here, you can see daylight through the back there. And then we'll 6.3mm end mill, that's what that stands for. So 6.35 is 1/4 inch. Millimeters EM for end mill for washer. So let's have a look at that. So that's the washer. I haven't cut through the holes yet. So now I'm going to put a 9mm hole down through the center, and we'll have a look at that. So you can see all the way through again. And it even shows you a shadow in there. How cool is this? It's pretty sexy, do I say? Pretty sexy software. All right, next one is going to be the slots. Now these are the slots. If I go back to two-dimensional, it'll show you what, these are the vectors that I've created. And the machine is going to cut out on the inside. With a vector, you have to tell Aspire whether you're going to be cutting out on the inside or on the outside. So let's have a look at that. And you see here it says inside, outside, or on. If this was just a line on its own without a completed perimeter for the vector, just a line, the machine automatically centers itself on that line and will travel the distance along it. So it's still a vector, even though it's not connected to its tail, head to tail, you know what I mean? So it's going to be conventional cutting because it's on the inside, not on the outside. See that? That's how we work it out there. You can see again, I will have said to it to be 5mm for the first pass. Okay, and the amount of passes it's going to do, I think, is 4. So it's going to be doing 5 from that. So 13 divided by 3 will be the amount of depth that's going to go in every one after that. There are no areas for tabs in here. It doesn't need a tab. The 1/4 inch cutter, which is 6.35 millimeters, that slot is 8 millimeters wide. So it's just going to be doing the inside of it, and there won't be anything left in there. The whole lot will be going up through the dust extractor and outside. What have we got next? We'll just close that. And we'll go down to the 3D image, and we'll say preview it. Oh, no, close that. There's a little guy here. See this? We can say preview the selected toolpath. So we've cut those slots out. Again, the machine, the clamps are holding the job to the spoil board very securely. Those little slots aren't going to make any difference whatsoever to how it all is. Now, the next thing I'm going to do is cut these parts here out. So this is cut the small parts out. And again, I label it 6.35 millimeter end mill. Even though it is a compression cutter, I still call it end mill. So I know what I'm talking about for myself. I know when I see it on the machine or when I'm working on it, I know that's what it's referring to. And let's preview that. Let's cut those out. Oh, and it's cutting that out. Okay, so the small parts, as in the smaller arm and those 2 little squares. Notice I have left tabs in those. That's so these little guys here, when it's finished cutting it out, the cutter doesn't grab a hold of it and fling it around the workshop, maybe at me. Could be dangerous. And also it could snap a cutter, and then I'd have a piece of carbide flying around the workshop, which would be even more dangerous than that little piece of wood. So let's have a look. I will shrink it down a little, and you can see this is where we're up to. Now the last thing we're going to do is cut these out. This is the main one, and it will come down to there, and this one is the smaller one. It'll come down here and through there. So let's have a look at that as the job to start with, and we'll see that we're going conventional around the outside. See that? We're going around the outside of these guys. Now, what have we got there? Our first cut, let's have a look. 4.75. That was a mistake. We need that to be 5 millimeters. So it's always good to have a bit of a look and check over, just to check yourself. Okay, that's all good. Apply. Sometimes if you forget to say apply, you'll think, oh yeah, it's done because I've told it, but you haven't hit the apply button and it's not going to do it. So that's what had happened there. Little things, just the little things that are going to bring you undone. So you really do have to focus. I had one person say to me, I think it was Andrew, said, finish the job the day you started, or any interruptions or distractions, start again at the beginning and go over the whole thing, because one little thing can slip you up. Because we're going to put this into an automated mode. The machine is going to do it all. This is not me using a router anymore. It's the machine is doing all the routing. I'm setting it up here, up here, to do what we've got to do. All right, now there are tabs. So we can have a look at the tabs, and you can see there's tabs here, 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 and here, and come down here. There's more tabs down here as well. It's always a good idea to try and line up the tabs across the whole job. Now, because this is an area here that's kind of hollow, I thought it's probably going to be easiest just to leave it alone. But there, it would have been a good idea to have tabs there and there. But then I'm going to have too many because of the length of this. It's one of those things you really do have a bit of trial and error to work out where you're going to put the tabs. I don't like putting tabs on turns because I will cut these tabs out with the multi-tool. So I wouldn't have a tab here, for instance. That would be bad. So here and here and here is okay. That's why I didn't put it on the end. If I wanted to, I could just click and put one there, or I can go over the top of it and click and it removes it again. Little things like this become second nature. I was saying to Vicky the other day, when you're working with software or anything really in life, do it a few times and it becomes kind of second nature. You start dropping into the same mindset as the person or the people who designed this. So I start, when I'm working in Aspire or in Vcarve, I start to think the same way. My logical progression, intuitive, starts to be in this. It's the same in Photoshop when I'm working on a picture, same kind of thing. All right, so that all looks good. So we'll close that. And now we've got to say calculate. Remember we changed the depth of that first pass to 5 millimeters and said apply. Well, that's all well and good, but until we push this button down here, which is the calculate button, it's going to give us the bird. It's going to say, I don't care. Unless you push that button, well, I'm not going to do it. So I'm reading down through here again, outside. We've got the tabs. I don't need to ramp in this particular situation. We've got the correct tool. It's a 1/4 inch end mill. We've got the right speeds. I haven't taken you through the speeds and feeds. That's another story. But basically the speeds and speeds, so the feed is how fast the machine is going to travel around. I've told it to travel at 5 meters a minute. So you work that out into seconds divided by 60. That's how far it's going to go in a second. And I've told it to be traveling, or the spindle to be spinning at 18,000 revolutions a minute. So that's a pretty standard kind of a speed for a 1/4 inch. I could take it up to 22,000, but I don't think there's any need. It's not a very hard wood, and I'm not getting it to go too deep. You still with me? Let's click the calculate button, and it's throwing up a warning here saying you've got it at 19 millimeters deep. Your material is 18 millimeters. You're going to go through. And I say, yep, that's fine. I like to go through about 1 millimeter because this old plywood that I've got that's been in the rack is swollen here and there. And I'd rather go into the spoil board just a little, not too deep, because I don't want to go into any of the metal that's holding the spoil board down. But we'll say that's fine. We'll say, all right, that's good. And we can go to preview. You can see over here that the toolpaths, and it hasn't cut it through it yet. So we'll say preview that selection. Done. So I can zoom in now, and this is the job that we're going to have, hopefully, on the machine at the end. So I'm going to close that. And now I'm going to save all of these by clicking on all of them. I'm going to save the toolpaths over here. Now you'll see here it says the toolpaths that I've got. Now I know I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 there. So I'm going to count them here. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's down to where it says 9 millimeters. 5, 6, 7. They're all there. I'm going to tell it what processor, post-processor, the machine has. So this is Mac 4 is what we'll be using, but I'm going to tell it to do it in Avid CNC millimeters. So that will automatically tell Mac 4 all the details it needs to know. Mac 4 is what actually runs the CNC. Okay, so we're going from this, which is our computer-aided design and computer-aided machining to get the toolpaths. We're saving it into a G code, which Mac 4 on the machine can read. Okay, so it's a little bit of a government department passing on the brief from one to the next, to the next, to the next. And so I'm going to say save the toolpath, and it's going to say, right, well, where do you want me to save it to? So I'll click this, and I'll say I want to save it to that guy there. We'll drag this across, and let's have a look. Dust pipe clamp. Today is the 16th, so let's say we'll save it to there. And it's going to say, it's already there. Do you want me to override it? And I'll say, yes, this is the one I want. Done. Now, it's been saved to the USB stick here. I can now come out of this and come back to Patreon, this one here, and minimize this one. And here we go. I'm reading through here. on the side. Bianca's there, and John Lowry. I hope everyone hits the thumbs up. Carl, Peter, Mike, morning everyone. And well, this isn't going to be everyone's cup of tea, as I said right at the beginning. And I can see that by the chat here. Not to worry. You guys wouldn't have seen the chat session on the right-hand side. Maybe you would. Yep, because it's going to be beside it. Of course you are. So there we go. 70 people watching now. Now I'm going to take it out of the computer. And as I said earlier, so it's all saved onto this little USB stick. I'll plug that into the laptop that runs the CNC. And I have my fingers crossed that the CNC is going to perform well for me. All right, let's go out to the other camera. Right there. And we'll get it started. All right, you can see I've got the piece of plywood here. I've got it held in position with these cam clamps that John made for me, and a piece of ply along the side of that as well. So I'm giving it even load. And that's one of the things about when I was talking about the tabs, how I wanted the tabs to line up across the sections of the job. By having this piece of plywood here, I'll take it off and show you. By having that, it's going to, instead of a point load in any particular spot, it's going to share the load out evenly, and hopefully it's going to work. All right, we'll get rid of that, and we'll get rid of that, and we'll get rid of that, and let's see if we can load the code from, get out of there, okay, cancel. We'll take this out. It's saying it didn't want to play ball. Okay, well, that's the first thing that's going to happen, is it? Great. Let's see what happens now. Let's see what we can do. Load the code. There it is. It's all there. And we're going to do 16th. I'm going to swing this around ever so slowly. You may be able to see it here a bit, or maybe not. So loading the code, and it's on the screen here. Let me see. No, you can't see it. Not to worry. The important thing for you guys is to see what happens at the end. All right, I'll swing the camera around a little bit this way so you'll be able to see what's going on. The compression cutter is in there and fitted. I do not have the variable frequency drive turned on at the moment. That's the thing that actually makes this spindle spin. It's turned off. I can touch this. It's not going to run any risk of starting up. It's actually a mechanical switch. I like it that way. You can get it so that you can turn it on and off here. I'm not a fan. I'd much rather have it, so I'm trusting this. Now I'm going to move the compression cutter, or the spindle I should say, across and back a little and down. We're going to get the machine's coordinates. So I've already set the soft limits. Now I'm going to use the touch plate and connect this to here. Now here's something that happened to me 2 days ago that for people that own CNCs, you may or may not have had this happen. Before I put the touch plate on, I took lowered it down manually with the computer. I jogged it down and it went into the surface by about 1 millimeter, and I was thinking, oh, is it going to be all right? So I started turning the cutter by hand on it when it was in the spindle, and it picked up a little bit of plywood on the end. Then I raised it up, put the touch plate in, lowered it down, and I always have the emergency stop right beside me. Lowered it down, and it didn't stop. It just kept on pushing down onto the brass plate. I hit that really quickly, so it didn't go very far, only a couple of millimeters. and I realised there was a piece of plywood on the end stopping it from completing an electrical circuit. So that's how this works. This is magnetised onto the spindle head, and it goes back to here. When this comes down and touches that brass plate, a complete circuit, it stops the progression of the machine going all the way down. So let's go to auto touch plate, and we're going to, it's going to do all three axes. Z first, here we go. I've got, holding this. And it didn't want to stop. So we will get out of there and we will click this. See, I told you, it's very important. Sometimes it could be that the CNC's, the coating on it might have an effect. I don't think it does, but let's have a look. Page up. Enable the machine and page up. Right. Let's try it again. See what happens. Your machine's got to be home before you can do the touch plate. Okay. All right. Let's do the homing. I thought I had homed it. Let's see what happens. Page up. And I am really a little bit nervous here. Let's see what happens. Nope, it didn't want to do it. Page down. It was doing it beautifully earlier today. Give me a quick second. I think what the problem is, I've got to undo these connections down here and redo them again. Just tidy them up. This is called CNC yoga. So I'm told. Let's see what happens. All right. We'll go again. It might do it again. It might go clunk, clunk, clunk. We'll watch. Yep. Down again. I'm going to turn it off and turn it back on. You know, it's one of those things they do with computers. Turn that one off. And this one. Turn the machine back on. And turn the software back on. Let's see what happens. Enable, load the code. That's all loaded. Page down. Why are you not coming down? That light's on. Remember, this is live. Down. Let's see how that goes. Home the machine again. Let's see what happens. Worked. Now it's going to travel across, and hopefully it's going to... Beautiful. Okay, it's homed. Okay. And we'll take it across here. And I'm not going to I'm just going to take it down to the height and tell it where it is. Okay, so we are just a fraction above. I'm good with that. I'm good with that. I'm going to tell it to 0 there. And then I'm going to come across. And this way. Let's have a look. It should be right over the corner. It is. It's perfect there. And I'm going to tell it it's 0 and 0. All right. So that's all done. Now we raise it up and put the dust hood on. And this is not a very long process once it gets started. I'm going to start the dust extractor up. And protection, the dust boot, turn on the dust extractor, the VFD, cycle start, and check the spindle speed. All right, here we go. I always stay right beside it as well in case I need to hit that. She's spinning up, going over to do its first pass. There we go. I'll bring this around a bit. So it's cutting this shape out. You come down here a bit lower. On the ends, you'll notice there's a little bit of a round area. That's called a dog bone. That's just the machine's lining itself up to do the pass. I'm going to come out to the other room and do a little bit of reading. Okay, now I'm hoping that it's coming through kind of clear. That's looking a little bit rubbish on the image. I'm wondering if it's just, I'm going to refresh it here. Let me have a look here. All right, it's doing a very poor quality playback. All right, I'm hoping it's streaming it nicely because I'm seeing it very poorly here. Okay, excellent. Thank you. Mine's just dropped off to 144. I think it's because maybe there's other people watching. That's fine. If it's coming through clean, that's great. Excellent, 1080, great. Thank you. So that's the second pocket. Now it's going to do the holes. this just hang around there. Actually, maybe it's done the hole. I'm going to come back out and have another bit of a squeeze, see what it's up to. Oh no, it's doing the second depth. See, it's done this down to 9 millimeters. So it's doing a second pass down here now. And the top is super clean. That is very, very clean all the way around. Very exciting. Even those of you who possibly are getting a bit bored, that's okay. I love it. Let's finish this pass now. It's going to do the holes. So it'll do 4 holes. Down here, do these ones to start. 4 passes. Doing them through the air at the moment, remember? We cut that bit out. So it's going down 5, 4 point whatever, 4 point whatever, and 4 point whatever to do the last 2. Which is great. Beautiful. The holes are super clean. So it's a 6.35 millimeter cutter. So it's doing an 8 millimeter hole. So it goes down and it just does that tiny little 1.65 millimeter offset as it spins. It's picked the speed up again, and now it's going to start cutting the slots, I think. No, just stop. Wash the section, remember, for the top of the insert nuts. So they're done. Now it's going to drill the holes down through the center of them. Four passes. And again. Now it's going to do the slots, I think. Having a think. Yep, the 8 millimeter wide slots. It would go down 4 times, remember, and give me a nice clean surface. Look how clean this is. That one, of course, can't be clean because I've got a spiral, or I've got the compression cutter in there, and I've only gone down 2 millimeters. So I wasn't really fussed about stopping the machine and putting a spiral down cutter in to compensate for that. These are clean, these are beautiful. Good. I'll come back out. Good morning, Dean. Morning, Dennis. First time there, is it? My feed froze for 30 seconds when you churned the dusty on. All good now. Okay, thanks, Wayne. Yeah, I'm running it, as I say, about 5 meters, 4.5 to 5 meters a minute. I'm comfortable with that. I get a good result. All right, what's it up to now? Still cutting those slots. All right, now I think it's going to cut that out. No, it's still the last slot. So there's 4 slots in that part. This is the extension arm that bolts on to the main section. It's very exciting when you break something down into its individual parts. Now it's going to cut it out. No, it's cutting 5 slots. Ha! I forgot. Not to worry. It's so nice. Now I'll cut it out. Come on, you can do it. It has a think between each step. I was going to cut out these guys, the little squares. I'm just leaving the tabs in there. One more pass, and up and down over the tab, up and down over the tab, and then move on to the next one. And stops it flying around and creating a bother for me. I'll come back and have another bit of a read. "30 likes and no dislikes." I noticed there haven't been any dislikes for a while, which is great. If you like what I'm doing, please click the like button and subscribe to the channel. It's fun. The show is live at warts and all. As I keep on saying, there'll be mistakes, there'll be errors. This is the real deal. If there's an issue with the machine, I'll tell you. I'm not going to try and hide it. As I say, with this, I think it's totally about, I've got to take all the plugs out at the bottom of the controller box, all the cable connections, and give them a quick clean, because it's been a few years, and then put them all back in. And I think all it is there's been possibly a little bit of a, if it was soldered, you'd call that a dry joint. I think there's just that little problem there. But it's been going great. This machine is fantastic. I love it. Francine knows what it's doing. We're all good. That's right, John. So you see there, it's doing that cutout. The big section now. And it's very, very clean. Oh, that tab nearly caught it. The plywood broke in the bottom of this one. I'll take that one out, because that could have been dangerous. See that? It was one of the problems with using old plywood, that tab broke. But there you go. What a great little item. All right, let the machine keep working. Has a think. Now it's going to cut the other half of the grabber out. And it's going to go over fresh air in a minute. Beautiful. So cool. It really is best not to go touching anything on the job while the CNC is running, because if you can't get out of the way quick enough, the machine's not going to stop. So I should have just left it alone. Tabs up again, and down, and then up, just checking down in there that the tabs are holding. Yeah, they're holding better in this one. So there's no chance of that one going anywhere. I am a little bit concerned about that one there as the brush goes over, but I think it'll be all right. Yep, off to the other one. I'll pull this one out now. It was sitting up a little bit on some sawdust in the previous run. So I should have really hit the spoil board with a sander before I put this down on it, because any little bits of fluff sticking up are going to hold it up. And remember, the machine is basically referencing off the bottom of this board, top of the board. It's working from the top here. We've told it how tall it is. If this comes up and down, it's not going to know the difference. This is cool. We're going to take it over to the router table after I've taken it out of here and clean up the edges, as in give them a little bit of a round so they're a little bit smoother to cut. Tabs in here have held very well as well. They're good. And they're good. Excellent. So I'm happy with that. I'll come back over it again. We'll bring this out. You like the live access, the idea of it, P-type. Is it Peter, is it, or Phil? Let me know. It has been a few years. I'm reading down through here, John. Anthony, as usual, very informative, Dave. Keep up the good work from Dorset, UK. Okay, Anthony has removed the dislike count to turn off the trolls. Good. John, Derek, I did not know that. Thank you. There you go. Lovely. 75 watching. Okay, so it's nearly finished. This is the last run, and it's going to park itself over in the corner when it's finished. So you see it going up and down for the tabs. They're holding well too. So it'll finish its run there, down here, turn itself off. That's the plan. Another tab, around. And remember, I didn't put a tab right on the point. It's finished cutting. There's a good boy. All right, I'll turn the Dusty off. This is just a remote that I use. And now I'm going to raise it up, page up, and take it across. Now, one of the things you can do, I'll just aim you down here. It's the page up and page down button for raising it up and down, and the left and right cursor button for the X and the Y axis. So I've explained it to a lot of people. The X axis is like reading across a page when it's in portrait image. So let's say I've got an A4. Across the page is where the writing would go. That's the X axis. Up and down the page is the Y axis. So it's up and down the bed of the CNC. Now, if I push the Shift button before I hit this button here, it makes it go much faster. And then down the end. Take the Shift button off, you can hear it going much slower. You probably didn't see any of that. I'll bring it back a little bit. Shift button on, Shift button off, run it back down again. And with it all homed, it's not going to have any fear of smashing out through the back because I've told it where its soft limits are. Now let's take it out of here and have a look. I'll bring it into the other room. All right, go to the other camera. Here we go. So what do you think? It's not going to be everyone's cup of tea, but I like it. So that tab has broken free already. So that's one piece. See, top and bottom, very, very neat. And we've got the two little pieces, two parts. And then we've got these two parts down here. So I'm going to get the multi-tool and cut those off. This is going to make a little bit of noise, so you might want to turn the sound down. probably going to drop, so I'll hold that. Done. That's what I'm left with. This was scrap. This was going to get thrown in the bin. It's an offcut from one of my benches, one of the earlier models. And now we have these. I give it a light touch with some sandpaper. How are we doing for time? Let's have a look at a viewer's project while I'm doing that. We're going to go over time a little bit today, but that's not a problem. Get a cork block from down the back on the that plane till. That's just lovely. All right, there's a cork block and some sandpaper. I'll use some 180. Now remember, this paper is color coordinated, so I know exactly what grit it is, and it tears. It's cloth backed. And down the center. And it tears remarkably straight. All right. Let's give this one a little bit of a sand here. And along the edge. You know, I was going to run it through the CNC, but I think I'll just do it with sandpaper for the moment. I'm not going to run it over the router table, but I think I'll just, as I said, just do it with the sandpaper for the moment. And we'll have a look at the viewer's project. Anyone for hockey? All right, what do we got? Piece of paper over here. If Dave used the touch plate to get the exact depth, the tabs may not have broken off. Normally they'd stay put. Yes, it is. It's a very fine adjustment. All right, what have we got here? Jack Rosenberger. Let's have a look, see if I can find his stuff down the side here. Jack Rosenberger. Now, Jack says, attached the photos of a recent project. As an experiment, I decided to make a whatever that, chopping board. Charcuterie, whatever it is, board using Baltic birch plywood and mahogany. My normal finish on cutting boards is a mixture of food grade mineral oil and white beeswax. Being unsure of durability of the Baltic birch around moisture, I decided to first apply one coat of penetrating epoxy and then oil wax mixture. It was fun to make and it made an interesting pattern. I enjoy watching a show from Jack. Let's have a look at another couple of pics. So that's when it's first started, and that's with a little sauce bowl in there, and then that's sitting on his kitchen bench at home. I think that looks lovely. Good on you, Jack. Thank you very much for sending that in to me, and we'll come back here. If you've got a project, send it in, and we'll show everyone on the show as well. And the next one is Andrew Taylor. Now, Andrew has made a really nice set of drawers, a drawer unit, and he's used New Guinea rosewood, snakewood, bird's eye maple, pink poplar, and Australian red cedar. Now, he's done a little bit of videoing with his phone. Now, I'm going to give you some tips. If you're going to send me stuff in, please don't set the phone up like this. Turn it sideways, and do that before you push the record button for the video. If you do it this way and push the record button, then turn it, the whole thing is going to come up sideways. And I have to muck around in a whole lot of software to try and flatten the video out. Now, Andrew had a couple of goes at this, and he was very apologetic when I said to him, you know, please tip it over. He said, I'm only new to doing photography stuff, but I'm loving the project. And I said, well, I'll let you off this time. So let's have a look at Andrew's unit. Where are we? There it is. All solid frame. drawers all dominoed together. He's used through dominoes. And we'll go to the outside and have a look from the front. Looks like bird's eye maple to me. Very, very nice. And the top, I think, is New Guinea rosewood. Is that a cedar surround around the edge, Andrew? And of course the ironing board in the background, why not? Okay, thank you so much for sending that in, Andrew. And again, if you've got projects happening, flick them into me. I'd love to see them. All right, now I was also saying that I would show you pictures of how that vent, remember I put the vent in the bathroom door, made the vent on the show, and then we cut the hole out in the door, and after the show, and after the glue had set, I sanded it off, and this is how it looked after I hit it with the sander. So all those joints are pretty nice, and that's all. I'm putting all of that down to having that 10-degree taper on the unit, and I could just finally cut a little bit off that 10 degree every time in a second pass on the table saw just to get it right. And then that's painted, and that's, you wouldn't even know that I'd mucked around with that door. It looks like that's how it was bought. And then this is from outside in the hallway, and you'll notice also another project that we've done on the show, which was that laundry dryer unit. So up the top is an access point to some utilities that I've got in that cabinet, and then below it's the dryer, and then below, under the dryer, is that pull-out clothes basket shelf that I built, which has got soft close slides. And then there's an area under that which I put the washing basket, and below there is an area for laundry, like towels that have all been dried and folded up so they're right beside the bathroom there, so that if anyone needs a towel, they're very accessible. And then also from inside the bathroom, that's what it looks like. So it's, you'd hardly know. It looks like it's always been there. And then back up to here. So what do you think of that? Andrew, the stuff looks fantastic, and so does yours, Jack. It's just beautiful. I've seen people do that 3D effect with light timbers and then a dark timber to create it to look like a shadow. I think that's wonderful. All right, now the next thing to do is let's put this thing together. I'll give that, I had sanded one part, I'm going to give this other part a quick sand. Now the reason this needs a sand is because this was inside the rebate, remember? This is the 9mm step down, and the first pass was 5mm, which was up at this height. The next pass was 5 and 4 is 9 point something, so it was just a little bit below it, so it was the spiral up was catching it. The rest of the compression cutter, the down cut part of it, didn't make contact on the third pass, where it did here. So the top and the bottom here are just beautiful. This tab is now gone. That one. All right. Now, we have this, and we have this. And there's the hole in the middle for the hinge. So let's do that. I did say it's going to go over a little bit, so we shall. I want to get it finished for you. So I'm using a 8mm screw style bolt and a washer and a nylock nut. So I'm going to slide those through. And the nut on the other side. And I better grab a spanner for that. And a screwdriver, I think. I just grabbed the shifter because that's all I could see there at the time. Screwdriver here. It's a Phillips. Where is my Phillips head screwdriver? There's one in the drill, I'll use that. How cool are these drills? See, it's got a little magnetic tool caddy down here for the different bits. Put in the first gear, so it's going to have some bite. Has that got him? I think so. Nearly there, a little bit more. That'll do. It's done. So I can open it and close it. Open and close. This can bolt on anywhere along there. And do you think it'll work? Let's put some tape on it and see how it goes. Now this is the Festool grip tape. This is the stuff you put on the bottom of tracks. And if you have a track saw and you want to use my dog locks, I'm making them in a few different colours. Me, Festool, Makita, Triton, and just the same colour as the track, basically. Links in the description box down the bottom. Australia only at this stage. It's just a matter of a quick postage for me in Australia to go overseas. I do customs declarations. It costs a bomb. Tracking is almost impossible sometimes. It'll track while it's in Australia, but when it gets overseas, I've lost it. And I have to do all of this mucking around. But not to say it won't happen, but I do sell the files for that for a 3D printer and for a CNC and a PDF on my Etsy site as well. So if you're interested, grab them. They work brilliantly. From there, around to there, down to here. Let's go to CarlCam for this. All right. Don't try and use cheap stuff. I've been down that track and it's rubbish. I need a bigger wrench, eh? It's funny how different countries, different terminology for tools. We call that a spanner. Or for that particular one, it's a shifter. There we go. It's the same as this stuff here. The tape. I'm guessing that was a play on Crocodile Dundee. Call that a wrench. Okay. There we go. Now, will it open? Indeed it will. Now you notice there's some holes here, and that's an 8mm hole, and ordinarily that will work, but there's also something else that I can do. So let's get this camera and aim it up to over there. It's a metric, of course it is. So I'm going to hook it up to here, but I'm going to show you when I've got the other camera on it, which is this one over here. And where's the 8mm? Here it is. So, opening up, we're going to go like this. I'll come over here, put it up there like so, and then close. I think that's a 5/16 bolt I've got in there, so that's no good. We'll take that off. Don't muck around with a 5/16 bolt, David. Make sure it's a 8mm. 8mm, 8mm. Give me a second, I'll get one. 5/16 is just slightly bigger than 8mm, I think. 8mm. Where to here? Why not? Yep, that's better. Not a whole lot, but nonetheless, it's going in. Or is it? No, I don't think it is. I'm going to push it all the way up past and then go past the outside. Now this is a part that I didn't expect to stuff up on me. Okay, it's all the way through. The holes need a tiny clean up. Let's push it up to there. And man, that thing has so much grip. It is amazing. I'm actually twisting the pipe that little bit. Anyway, let me take that out because I don't really want to leave it there. That's got him. That's how it should have been. Beautiful. I'll put the everything's ganging up on me today. So there we go. You can see it's got a massive grip. Come around the other side. And it looks decent. And that works. I just have to open that hole up a little bit on the front part. And we've got all these slots here to be able to connect as well. And back here. Yeah, so that's it. Now, do I have a bolt that I can put in there and lock it? Let me see. Maybe this and do I have? I think I've got one. Give me a sec. I need to find one of these other parts. Well, I can use that, I'm pretty sure. No, that's not going to work. That's just that little bit too... I need a... well, let's do it. No. I'm looking for a clamp that I can lock it together with really tightly to put this on. Okay, so have this mounted on there, and then I can adjust this to wherever I want, up, down, across, out here. I can go out on this side and it will hold the camera. I've had it yesterday with the ball head hanging off the end, so I tested it and it worked just brilliantly. Anyway, I'm very happy with that. And so that last bit is adjusting that whole diameter now. In Aspire, I made it so that it was, see this part here, this section? My first one that I did wasn't as pretty as that. This was the first attempt. And whilst it works, it had a big gap here and on the other side. And when it was open, it started, let me see if I can make it work, give you some sense about it. So this part where my fingers are down here was a contact point, and up here. So what I did to sort that out was at this point here, the center of that circle, this is a 20mm radius that I have here. So what I did was I put the circle back in there in Aspire, so I had the vector back again, and then I created a 45-degree, well, a tangent, basically a tangent off the edge of that circle back this way at 45 degrees, which left me with this, which is a whole lot neater and a complete open stop for it as well. There's a whole lot of things happen in the background that you just see something on a shelf or whatever and you think, yep, easy. There's a lot of thought goes into these things. Now, yesterday also we had some, this is the last of it, we had a massive storm come through. Didn't actually hit our place, but it went past us on the eastern side. So it was more towards Sydney, and the lightning and everything was fantastic. So we got some footage from up on the street over the house and the reflection in the solar panels of this massive storm system going through. You can watch, it's not bad, it's only very short. What do you reckon about that? I'm reading through here. Looks like it does look like it's going to go well. Thanks, John. Said I've made a good rigging grip. Eric, is it going to be a hazard at just below head height? No, I'm only showing you there so that it's just quick demonstration. Ordinarily, it's going to be up higher, and I'll lock it. One of the big applications for it will be down over the table saw. So I can have this mounted on the duct system that goes right at this main pipe goes right over the top of the table saw. I can mount it directly over the sheet so that as I push an 8-foot by 4-foot sheet through the saw, I can have you down right in front of the action as the sheet's going through, rather than trying to be off to the side where a tripod could be or possibly be in the way because the sheet might bump into it. So it's going to have its applications, not everywhere, and remember I said it was an experiment. I'm mucking around with ideas now. I've had a lot of people throw their ideas in as well, and that's been fantastic. I've loved to pick up on what other people have done and their suggestions, but I always like to try and follow my own through if I can and see if it'll work. And this will work, definitely. All right, down through here. John, I think I better go to bed. Good night, John. John, Dave, you can now say, let's go to the Dave arm. We could do. Russell, I think we should call the camera Big Brother. Well, maybe. I don't know. That might be a little competition. We might actually put the name on the actual arm and see how it looks. We could call it Armless. That's a bit poor. All right, we're going to have the Patreon chat in a couple of minutes. And I think that's going to be it. Look after yourselves, be nice to each other, and I shall see you next week. Bye.